Tonight, honoring Canada's veterans, their service and their sacrifices. From the nation's capital to communities right across this country, Canadians gathered to pay tribute.
Canada seems to be paying more attention than ever to the veterans, and that's very much appreciated.
A Spirit Airlines plane struck by gunfire over Haiti, a flight attendant on board injured. The airport now closed as gang violence surges on the ground. And a wild story of survival. A Canadian paraglider suddenly caught in a storm.
I was just sort of like in this spiral going up, and my head was hanging out, all the blood was rushing to my brain.
What happened after he blacked out and how he survived despite free falling back to Earth.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. In small towns and big cities, at cenotaphs and in schools right across Canada, a show of force and respect for the soldiers who fought and died for this country. Crowds of this size in Ottawa have been rare lately, after years of smaller pandemic ceremonies. And the face of these crowds is changing, with fewer Second World War and Korean War veterans now looking on. As Canadians gathered, Remembrance was, of course, top of mind, but as Olivia Stefanovic explains, so too were current conflicts in the world and the future of Canada's armed forces.
The familiar call of lament, a reminder of freedom's price. About 35,000 people paid tribute to Canada's veterans at the National War Memorial in Ottawa, one of the biggest turnouts in recent years.
This is a legacy that should continue, because if we don't and we forget, we'll be overtaken.
At the very back of the Veterans Parade, applause erupted for 90-year-old Korean War veteran Bill Black, who recalled the cheers his father received when he returned from the Second World War.
I was thinking about that and thinking about how years ago we didn't have these crowds out, and now Canada seems to be paying more attention than ever to the veterans, and that's very much appreciated.
But in the crowd, fewer veterans from those older wars. John Priest, one of the few remaining who served in the Second World War.
Just as our soldiers pledge to leave no one behind on the battlefield, we must pledge as a nation to leave no veteran or their families behind.
This year's Remembrance Day marks 80 years since D-Day, the beginning of the end of the Second World War, and the first with Newfoundland's unknown soldier.
It adds a lot because of the fact that there is actually one of our own that has been brought back from France and is now actually buried here.
Hopefully we don't create any new war vets. If we can go that way, that's ideal, but we should remember those that fought on our behalf.
Especially in a world increasingly threatened by conflict.
The freedom to play games, the freedom to read books. We take those things for granted.
This year's Silver Cross Mother embodies the ultimate sacrifice. Maureen Anderson lost both her sons to post-traumatic stress disorder after they served in Afghanistan. Agatha Dyer also lost her son in that mission, which ended a decade ago. She returned to Ottawa for the first time since she was appointed Silver Cross Mother 20 years ago.
It's very hard when you lose your loved one. It can be harder when you lost a child.
In what's become a tradition, thousands of people surrounded the tomb of the unknown soldier to lay down their poppies, a way of saying thanks to all those who continue to lay down their lives for Canada.
And Olivia, you were out in that big Ottawa crowd. I'm curious, what more did people tell you about why they came out?
Well, Adrian, I met one woman who came here all the way from Whitehorse. She clutched photos of her late dad during the ceremony and his military medals. It's clear that many people here say that they feel it's more important than ever to continue to support Canada's armed forces because they feel the world is becoming more dangerous, Adrian.
All right, Olivia Stefanovic in Ottawa, thank you. Nearly 2,000 Canadian soldiers are deployed right now to Latvia, and they too pause to remember. Canada is leading a NATO training mission there called Operation Reassurance, part of NATO's response to Russian aggression. Several other countries also took part. More than 4,300 Canadian troops are deployed around the world right now. Well, Air Transat is joining several American airlines canceling flights into and out of Port-au-Prince tonight after a Spirit Airlines plane was hit by gunfire as it was about to land. Paul Hunter recently reported from Haiti's capital, and as he shows us tonight, Haiti's international airport is again shut down as gang violence ramps up.
In this unverified video, someone goes from here aboard what's believed to be a Spirit Airlines passenger jet points to bullet holes through the fuselage and into the overhead bins. It's sobering stuff. The jet was wheels down and set to land at Port-au-Prince when gunfire struck. The jet had taken off from Fort Lauderdale, bound for Haiti. When it was hit, it circled the airport, then made its way, bullet holes and all, northeast and into the Dominican Republic before landing safely. It's believed a flight attendant was grazed by a bullet, but that there were no serious injuries. Gang violence in Port-au-Prince has been spiraling since 2021. With this shooting, Spirit, JetBlue, American Airlines, and Air Transat have all suspended their flights to Haiti, and the city's airport is now closed. 2 weeks ago, thousands who live in this Port-au-Prince neighborhood fled their homes in fear, carrying whatever they could, as gangs moved into yet another region of the capital. The bandits kicked me out, she says. Some 700,000 Haitians are now displaced in Port-au-Prince, with gangs now moving beyond the capital. Also last month, this UN helicopter was struck by gunfire. CBC News flew in that helicopter in May as it ferried people in and out of the capital for the UN World Food Program. All of it signaling the international security team, trained in part by Canadian forces, is struggling to help Haitian police bring order. And as the country's leadership is likewise flailing, now with a freshly appointed prime minister overseeing a council plagued by corruption and infighting. One alone cannot solve this country's problems, he said. All the nation's vital forces must work together, even as it's clear that to date, Haiti's challenges have only worsened. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Concern is growing tonight about the lack of goods moving through Canada's two busiest ports. Workers are locked out in Vancouver and Montreal. And as Vanessa Lee explains, for many businesses, this is happening at a terrible time.
Port workers in Montreal are on the picket lines after being locked out, halting the movement of crucial goods and merchandise at Canada's second largest port. The Port Authority warns of catastrophic consequences for the Canadian economy.
One day at the Port of Montreal, it's 400 million of merchandise that goes in and out or flow through the Port of Montreal.
The Maritime Employers Association initiated the lockout after nearly 1,200 workers rejected a contract offer tabled last week. The union representing longshore workers says key sticking points like schedules have not been addressed, adding the two sides have not been at the bargaining table since the end of September.
We have made numerous offers to sit down, but they refuse to respect our right to collective negotiation.
Another labor dispute has shut down Canada's busiest port, Vancouver, with the holidays just around the corner. It's the most important time of year for retailers, including this newly opened furniture store that imports pieces from Turkey and China.
We are waiting right now for a container. We're supplying actually Costco, and in a container we're fitting about 800 to 1,000 products. We can't go out of stock because then it affects our relationships with our partners.
The longer the disputes drag on, the more challenging it will be for supply chains to be fully restored.
Each day of a work stoppage takes about 4 to 5 days to clear the backlog it created.
Union leaders say the simultaneous lockouts seem to be designed to force the federal government's hand. For now, Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon is not intervening, instead urging parties in both sets of talks to get back to the negotiating table. Vanessa Lee, CBC News, Montreal.
We're learning more tonight about who Donald Trump wants in his administration. He's already picking a number of people to fill key roles, including those who will help carry out his mass deportation plan. Katie Simpson on what that might look like.
A familiar face of the MAGA movement returning to Donald Trump's inner circle.
America is for Americans and Americans only.
Stephen Miller is poised to become the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. He's best known for his support of hardline immigration rules, including separating parents and children at the southern U.S. border. Joining him, Tom Homan as Trump's new border czar.
You better start packing now.
The former head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement is now in charge of Trump's mass deportation plan, targeting migrants who've committed crimes first, then asylum seekers whose cases have been rejected, sharing some of his ideas last month with 60 Minutes.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
New cabinet is starting to take shape.
Homan is a frequent guest on Fox News and has previously broadly criticized the Canada-U.S. border.
My opinion is that if a terrorist cell really wants to get in the United States, and the terrorist cells have money, it's easy to get to Canada, pay that money, fly into Canada, and cross in the United States.
People sent a message. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik will be the new U.S. ambassador to the UN.
Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
She became a rising Republican star after grilling college presidents about on-campus anti-Semitism. One thing all three picks have in common, they are staunch Trump loyalists. Trump's picks and plans are drawing criticism from his opponents, but after campaigning on these policies and earning an overwhelming win, he's trying to do what Americans voted for. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Donald Trump's victory is being called an opportunity by Israel's finance minister, who says it is time to annex Israeli settlements in the West Bank. The year 2025 will be, with God's help, the year of sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, he said, using the biblical names for the West Bank. Bezalel Smotrich added he has no doubt Donald Trump will recognize Israel's claim over Palestinian land, long considered occupied under international law. Sasha Petrusik joins us from Jerusalem. So, Sasha, Smotrich suggested planning for this is already in motion.
That's right, Adrian. He's ordered his officials to draw up plans for Israel to annex some 150 settlements in the West Bank. Now, Smotrich is a settler himself. He's also a key minister in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling coalition. Netanyahu denies there's been any change in policy, but he's been appointing pro-settlement politicians to some key positions, including Israel's new ambassador to the United States. Settlers here see this as their big opportunity to seize Palestinian land in the West Bank and maybe even in parts of Gaza. That's because Donald Trump is headed to the White House. And the last time he was president, he granted Israel some major wishes, including making Jerusalem the capital.
But Sasha, Donald Trump is not the only factor to consider here.
That's right. The situation in the Mideast is entirely different. Israel's involved in major wars in Gaza and Lebanon, which Trump has said he wants ended. He also doesn't want another big one with Iran that the United States could be drawn into. Settlements and rising settler violence has also been a major hurdle to any sort of a peace deal. And on top of that, Arab countries, especially Saudi Arabia, has made it clear that a Palestinian state has to be part of any sort of a deal. Adrian?
All right, that is Sasha Petrusik in Jerusalem. To a terrifying tale now for a Canadian traveling in India. He was paragliding when he was swept up in a powerful storm, then found himself falling thousands of meters to the jungle below. Incredibly, he survived, and he shared his story with Terry Reith.
Ben Lewis was living his dream, paragliding in India.
We had lots of amazing flying around.
The Canadian had been in the air for nearly 5 hours when a storm appeared and his adventure took a violent turn.
Basically just, carrying me upwards at crazy speeds and, just up and up and up.
During a terrifying 23 minutes, he was pulled higher and higher, nearly 6,000 meters from the ground.
I was just in this spiral going up, and my head was hanging out, and all the blood was rushing to my brain, and that's probably what caused me to black out in the end.
He woke here, in the middle of the jungle. He had several broken ribs, a broken neck, he could barely see or hear. But he found his way to a place where he could get cell reception and texted his friends. "I'm in trouble," he wrote, dropping a pin of his location. A local family found him, took him in and warmed him until his friends arrived and moved him to safety. Lewis now knows that he was hit by something called cloud suck, a thermal updraft which is caused by rising columns of warm air.
Cloud suck poses probably the most dangerous to unpowered flying.
The head of Canada's paragliding organization says most flyers know to avoid them.
You get out of the way, you make the decision not to fly. That's the best decision.
Anyway, this place is a bit of a zoo with kids and dogs.
Lewis is now home in Watson Lake, Yukon, recovering from his injuries.
I mean, it's okay. It's all getting better. There's still, night times are hard, mornings are hard, everything hurts, but it's fine. It's a good lesson. It'll help me avoid storms in the future, I think.
He admits that he took risks he shouldn't have and promises to be more careful the next time he flies. Terry Reith, CBC News, Edmonton.
And there's been a dramatic rescue at sea. A family of 4 pulled from a sinking catamaran off the coast of Bermuda. The vessel started taking on water after springing a leak in an escape hatch. The closest ship that could help was a brand new Disney cruise liner. It was able to launch a lifeboat and rescue the family. That cruise ship was en route to Florida from Europe, where it was built, and it still hasn't had its maiden voyage with paying passengers. Well, transit systems are struggling in many Canadian cities. One town has seen its ridership double in the last 2 years. The pilot project offering a free ride next. Plus, on Remembrance Day, new generations of students connect with the past.
If I were there about a century ago, I would probably enlist as a nurse.
And later, cycling through history.
I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this.
A Canadian woman's ride to remember. We're back in 2 minutes. In central China, tens of thousands of student cyclists brought traffic to a standstill between 2 cities. So this began as a social media trend, with a handful of students cycling 50 kilometers to try a specific kind of soup dumpling. Well, it caught on as a positive way for young people to burn off some steam. Officials now fear the situation has gotten out of hand. Bike lanes are being closed. Some universities are reportedly barring students from leaving campus. Well, you don't need a bike for a free ride in one Ontario town tonight. An ongoing pilot project in Orangeville is offering public transit at no cost. As Anise Haidari tells us, it's part of a growing trend. Just don't expect it to catch on everywhere.
It's fairly easy to grab the bus in Orangeville, Ontario.
And no monthly pass, no tickets, no cash to pay for your fare pass that you have to pay in other cities.
It's free for everyone.
This is my way to get around back and forth to appointments, to my kids' school.
In 2022, around 100,000 people took the bus there. This year, they're projecting more than 260,000. Politicians were aiming for more than just convenience.
We knew that by offering fare-free transit, we could have an environmental positive impact, taking more vehicles off the road and offering a better option for our residents. But also we knew that there was a really strong social equity piece from a financial perspective.
Orangeville is testing this idea until 2027, and the mayor says it's catching on elsewhere.
I get real interest from municipalities of all sizes, from small rural to small urban like we are, right to big cities.
And the idea has made inroads in some big U.S. cities, like Kansas City, Albuquerque, and Tucson. But in Canada, this transit expert says don't expect a free ride.
It has a place, an opportunity for smaller and maybe medium-sized communities. For larger communities such as Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, it's going to be an uphill climb.
Big cities need the money that transit fare brings in. Smaller towns can offer residents free rides, not just Orangeville, but Banff and Canmore, Alberta too, though larger cities have to choose who gets a discount.
Here in Calgary, that targeting costs governments more than $6 million. It's meant to help younger people, seniors, and those with lower incomes.
Tailoring transit discounts to specific people matches other policies in Canada, like income support or taxes.
You'd want to make it free for everyone. It's very costly. So what do? You target certain demographic that you deemed more important. So I think it's an important first step.
But it's more than a first step back in Orangeville, where the project is expanding to a nearby town. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.
As Canadians mark Remembrance Day, the sacrifices of the past are also being taught in classrooms.
So if we take the statistics and we whittle it down into here's some of the faces behind the numbers.
Changing approaches for a new generation of students. Plus, after being sent to residential school, he made the ultimate sacrifice for Canada.
I think he thought about what the next generations will look like for our community.
The story of an Indigenous veteran and the community that's kept his memory alive. And the world gathers in Azerbaijan for another round of climate talks.
It is a conflict of interest to allow a major producer of oil and gas to be custodian of climate talks.
How Donald Trump's election is weighing on the conference. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. That is British Prime Minister Keir Starmer joining French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris to mark Armistice Day. The two laid a wreath together at the tomb of the unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe. After the ceremony, they met for talks, releasing a joint statement about their unwavering support for Ukraine. Starmer is the first British leader to attend the ceremony at the Champs-Élysées since Winston Churchill in 1944 during the Second World War. Now, how young students are learning and connecting with the history of the world wars is forever evolving. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson takes us inside the classroom for a look at how some teachers are tackling the challenge of making something so far in the past feel relevant to the young.
We'll put this one on.
These grade 10 students were born almost a century after the Great War, but thanks to their history teacher, they're doing things like trying on uniforms and digging up information on soldiers from their own neighborhood, some who even went to their school and left to fight, many never to return.
So if we take the statistics and we whittle it down into here's some of the faces behind the numbers, then the students can find a personal connection to it.
That connection has been harder to forge in recent years. Students aren't likely to have living relatives who fought in the two world wars. Many of them are from cultures not defined by these conflicts. It's where resources like Honoring Bravery can be helpful. The Military History Online database tells stories of Canadian war heroes of diverse backgrounds, something this Montreal teacher has found useful.
There's a lot of stories, for example, of men and women who were not allowed to serve in the military. We're talking about people who were of Indigenous or Asian background, Black Canadians who had certain limitations but still fought to serve Canada.
How kids are taught history makes all the difference to their engagement, says this professor of education.
Kids of all ages are very capable of engaging in the study of the past by using the tools of the historian, by getting their hands on the raw materials of history.
It certainly worked on these students in Katie Whitfield's class.
If I were there about a century ago, I would probably enlist as a nurse. I would see very horrible things.
It does break my heart how few have, it was so difficult for them to send letters. They weren't able to give constant updates.
We heard earlier,
as the generation brought up on smartphones and social media makes meaningful connections to idealistic young people a century ago. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to break down the news shaping our world.
Donald J. Trump.
Donald Trump's victory casts an ominous shadow over the latest climate summit.
It's a huge, huge setback for the global climate action.
But first, he fought and died for the country that sent him to residential school.
I think he thought about his home community, protect the next generations for years to come.
Now his great-nephew ponders the legacy of a brilliant man born to be chief.
It's definitely overwhelming feeling.
Nearly 3,000 First Nations people fought for Canada in the Second World War. Wamish Hamilton looked into the story of one such soldier whose exceptional promise was cut short. And along the way, Wamish made an amazing discovery.
The Bretteville-Chorlays Canadian War Cemetery sits just outside of Caen, France. Nearly 3,000 Canadian soldiers are buried here, like they are in so many Canadian war cemeteries spread across Normandy. Row upon row of gravestones. Story upon story. You don't have to walk far in to get to section 19. It's right up front. Down the 5th row, 4th gravesite, lies Edward Clutesy. An Indigenous soldier with a quiet but remarkable legacy.
Oh, cool.
Josh Goodwill has never seen it like this.
Wow.
He is Edward's great-nephew. How did you feel watching the video?
You can hear the silence, but you can hear so much more. Comrades that, were with him for very last moments. It was definitely overwhelming feeling.
At least 3,000 First Nations people enlisted in World War II, as well as an unknown number of Inuit, Métis, and other Indigenous people, fighting for a country that had threatened their own existence. Edward Clutesy's grave marker says he was a private, but he held a higher rank back home on the Sechant First Nation in Port Alberni, BC. He was a chief, one of his tribe's hereditary chiefs, a traditional title that is passed down through families and is now held by his great-nephew, Josh. So what's the first story you ever heard about Edward?
I heard he was a very smart, intelligent man. My grandfather was always proud of sharing with us over and over again just the immense intelligence that he had and carried and shared with his younger brother.
Edward's military assessment report indicated that he had a very superior learning ability. Like thousands of Indigenous children in Canada, Edward was taken from his family and sent to a residential school. That's him, back row, 3rd from left in the Alberni Indian Residential School band. All that's left of the school now is the girls' dormitory and the memories of survivors who went there. How do you feel knowing that he was a genius? He's an Indigenous person who was a genius, who'd been through the trauma of residential school.
I think it doesn't surprise me because we have a lot of intelligent people in our community. We have a lot of people that are destined for great things and a lot of people that have a lot of good skills despite residential school, despite some of the hardships that they go in life.
Does it surprise you to learn that it was the government and the country that put kids in residential school then? For generations, including Edward's generation and Edward. Yet when he left school, he fought for the country that did that. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?
I think he thought about his home community. I think he thought about his family. I think he thought about his siblings. I think he thought about his younger brother, my grandfather Albert, and the life that they could potentially live if he didn't put himself forward and put himself in that situation. I think he thought about what the next generations will look like for our community. And I think it's something that's a natural thing for many of us, is that the work we do now is for the next generations.
For Josh, that work is preserving the Sechant language as an instructor in their language program.
a huge responsibility because we don't have many speakers left, and we want to continue to try and revitalize it, strengthen it, keep it going, right? Because it's our identity as who we are as, you know, Tishot and Nuchanov, and the coolest people is our language, right? It was our governance, it was our life.
The Tishot First Nation calls Port Alberni home.
There you go.
But the Indigenous world can be small.
Hello, trick or treat.
As I found out while researching Edward Clutesy. This is something I didn't know until yesterday. So this picture, this is Edward, right? That's my father.
Wow.
I knew this picture existed.
Yeah.
I've seen it before, but I did not know that that was Edward and that they knew each other.
Yeah.
That they were the same age. It's interesting that we can look at a residential school picture and have a smile about it.
Yeah.
Do you remember being told anything about his death?
The only thing was that he was killed in action. That was all that grandfather told me.
Edward's mortar team was hit by an artillery shell. Death didn't discern their heritage, only that they were soldiers and they died together. Today, we remember them. As you were growing up, even to now, your grown years, how often did you think of Edward?
Every year, Remembrance Day, I think it's a time that we reflect and honor those that stood up for us. I think not just as Indigenous people, but as a family. And I think he did what everyone else wanted to do, was protect the next generations for years to come. And that was sometimes the sacrifices that you had to make. And I think he sacrificed for himself, for his siblings and his family and his community and who we are now. And we're here because of it.
And here's a final note from Wamish Hamilton. He says Josh Clutesy and his family plan to host a memorial potlatch or ceremonial feast. It is to honor his late grandparents and to finally say goodbye to the fallen soldier, Edward. Well, coming up, in the wake of Donald Trump's election win, the world is meeting to talk about climate change.
We will drill, baby, drill.
What that could mean for COP29 next. The latest climate conference is all about money.
I think it is going to be a big fight.
So many desperate people bearing the brunt of climate change.
You can't stand still anymore.
COP29 looks for leadership from rich countries.
Whether Canada is prepared to do that in an election year, I think, is an open question.
Now, adding to the drama is a controversial host, oil-rich Azerbaijan, and the specter of Donald Trump, the U.S. president-elect, who is no fan of climate action. Susan Ormiston, our international climate correspondent, breaks down all the challenges.
Azerbaijan on the Caspian Sea, oil and gas rich. It dug the world's first oil wells back in the 1840s. Fossil fuels still make up 60% of the country's revenues.
Having oil and gas deposits is not our fault. It's a gift of the God.
President Ilham Aliyev is close to Russia, Baku, a bridge to Europe. And as host of COP29, Azerbaijan is welcoming the world's climate delegates. The problem is their goal is to cut fossil fuel dependency, so the duality is an issue.
Is a conflict of interest to allow a major producer of oil and gas to be custodian of climate talks that are designed to reduce emissions in order to achieve a livable future for everyone.
President-elect Donald J. Trump.
COP29 is stacked with challenges, starting with the shadow of Donald Trump back in the White House.
We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia.
No champion of climate action.
We will drill, baby, drill.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax.
And what we know is that it is very real.
The last time Trump was president, in 2017,
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
he signaled he'd do it again. At COP29, delegates will be mapping out how to navigate the U.S.'s expected retreat on climate policy.
It's a huge, huge setback for the global climate action. It's devastating, to say the least. With Trump now taking leadership role in the US, we will not see any substantive climate action from the United States, which is massive because US is the biggest historical emitter, and US not being at the table is going to hurt everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone.
The U.S. climate envoy, John Podesta, is trying to reassure the conference.
This is not the end of our fight for a cleaner, safer planet. Facts are still facts. Science is still science. The fight is bigger than one election, one political cycle, in one country.
So as COP begins, expectations are low and the scrutiny is high. Just a year ago, Azerbaijan attacked a breakaway republic of ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. Recently, President Aliyev has tightened his fist, arresting political opposition.
It has jailed journalists. Anyone who seems to not want to toe the official party line is either dealt with in terms of incarceration or moved out of sight.
Hosting COP is in part a bid to burnish its international credentials.
They are a significant energy producer. They are looking to make some transitions to greener energy future. But the real purpose, I think, for them was, again, this Azerbaijan as an international player, getting the country back on the global map.
The pressure is on this year's COP president, Azerbaijan's Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources, to bridge a growing gap between rich and poor nations.
We send a clear and strong signal that more public and private finance will be allocated to climate targets.
But a senior member of his COP team is already embroiled in controversy, recorded apparently promoting partnerships for oil and gas deals with the state energy company. COP29 is nicknamed the Finance COP, laser focused on money. At the heart of it, how to find over $1 trillion to help countries adapt to the changing climate and pay for the mounting damages from it.
There are billions of very poor, very vulnerable people around the world in developing countries that are experiencing the impacts of climate change. Now, it's a big
Jennifer
topic.
Morgan is Germany's climate envoy on a recent trip to Canada.
The main sticking point is, can the world come together to reset the finance discussion in the midst of quite a lot of uncertainty?
This year saw even more severe climate disasters, tragic deaths, and skyrocketing bills for cleanup, undeniable signs of the growing urgency.
We are teetering on a planetary tightrope. Either leaders bridge the emissions gap, or we plunge headlong into climate disaster, with the poorest and most vulnerable suffering the most.
Geopolitical pressures, wars, elections, and worldwide debt will make success at COP even more challenging. Catherine Abreu is a longtime climate policy analyst.
I think it is going to be a big fight at this year's set of UN climate talks between developing countries rightly demanding the amount of support that they need from rich nations, while rich nations are claiming that they really don't have that money to spend.
Last year's COP28 in Dubai ended with a promise to transition away from fossil fuels. But that hasn't happened. Oil and gas production has risen in Canada and the US to record levels, with forecasts for more next year. Renewable energy, especially solar, has soared this year, but that hasn't outpaced oil and gas, partly because of a galloping demand for more electricity, as temperatures continue to climb. 2024 certain to be the warmest year on record and consistently above 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming.
I think as one of the rich G7 nations, developing countries are going to be looking to Canada to increase our climate finance pledge again. Whether that's realistic, whether Canada is prepared to do that in an election year, I think is an open question.
But the planet has its own timeline. And the heating seas, savage storms, and human impact is forcing leaders to confront the mounting costs and who pays.
It's going to be hard. I don't go into this with unbounded optimism here, but I think there can be progress made. There's a momentum to understanding that we are facing climate change.
COP29 is steering into more climate chaos.
The world is changing. It needs to happen more quickly so that we can avoid even more extreme impacts. You can't stand still anymore. You just can't stand still.
And now we learn, Adrian, that Donald Trump has just now appointed the new head of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and he says his goal is to restore U.S. energy dominance.
Okay, so the current U.S. administration seems pretty hamstrung at COP. The world just hit another record high temperature this year. From a climate perspective, it all seems pretty dark.
It isn't. Here's why. There is an explosion of investment into clean energy. I mean, solar, wind, battery storage, all these kinds of technologies, they're galloping. Why? Because energy is desperately needed. Clean energy. I spoke to an operator in Texas just before the election who said the demand is there. It's not going to go away. So the fact that Donald Trump may pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Treaty is not going to end all that because clients want green energy.
Okay, Susan Ormison, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, a Canadian woman cycles 1,000 kilometers along the front lines of the First World War.
The trail is called the Western Front Way, and it goes from the Swiss-French border up to the North Sea in Belgium.
Her ride into history in our moment. You are looking at Stephanie Yule from Yellowknife as she nears the end of a bike ride she will remember forever. So she cycled 1,000 kilometers on a route that follows the trenches and front lines of the First World War, from a small town on the Swiss-French border to another small town in Belgium. And tonight, her journey and the memories along the way make our moment.
It took me 5 weeks. The trail is called the Western Front Way, and it goes from the Swiss-French border up to the North Sea in Belgium. And it literally follows this swath of the trenches in the Western Front from World War I. So it's 1,000 kilometers long and about 30 kilometers wide. My great-grandfather fought in World War I. My Uncle John was in the military. But I think probably the most profound influence for me was my grandmother, who was a war bride, and she married Canadian soldiers. I still wear her wedding band. Some of the big standout moments, and I may cry when I do this, especially today, Ypres is big in Canadian history, right? Like there's the Battle of Passchendaele. That's where gas was first used during World War I. Also, people don't realize that's where In Flanders Fields was written. There was a farm called Essex Farm, and in that cemetery was a tombstone for a 15-year-old. But to actually see a 15-year-old that was killed in battle, I really found that an interesting moment. How to commemorate a young teenager, a young man that passed away.
Now, when she did this, she raised thousands of dollars for the Red Cross in Ukraine. But her point, and I think it's such a fair one, is if you ever get the opportunity to go to the trenches or the beaches for the First World War or the Second World War, if you ever get that chance, don't think twice. You will never forget that experience. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app. Subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.